metabolism of carbohydrates. So already we completed different types of carbohydrates. What are they? What are those? Okay, monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides. Okay, so how the carbohydrates when you take through the food is absorbed in the body. So basically, whatever food we eat, in every type of food there is carbohydrates. Okay, this is a simple thing, but the amount of carbohydrates and type of carbohydrate is present is different. Okay, so after entering into stomach, digestion will happen. After entering into small intestine, absorption will happen. Then the material will transfer into bloodstream, portal vein. Okay, it will enter into liver. Liver will metabolize. Means metabolism means, in simple words, the how the cell want to take those nutrients. Okay, like example I will give that if you eat if you one will take the large one apple, you cannot eat whole apple at once. Okay, it need to break down into pieces, small pieces, then you will able to take those pieces one by one. Okay, this is how your body, your mouth will take those food in that form only. So same applies to our cells. Okay, same apply to our cells. So a cell cannot take large molecular size nutrients. Okay, it need to break down. It need to break down into simple molecules. So this process, whole process is done by liver. Okay, this whole process is done by liver. But other than that, stomach have their function, digestion. Okay, absorption will happen in small intestine. Then only the liver will do this their work. If the digestion is not proper, the small intestine doesn't absorb properly the nutrients. Okay, so the large amount of particles will come to the liver, and liver needs lot of energy to metabolize that. So starting from the mouth itself, we need to chew the food properly. Okay, minimum uh 16 times, maximum 32 times. Okay, in between 16 to 32, I can chew the food properly. Okay, so first metabolism starts from your mouth itself. Okay, so let's talk about the important thing related to metabolism of carbohydrates. So carbohydrate is a source of energy. We know that. Okay. Okay. In all the living cells. Okay. Even even plants, even animals, and we human beings, everyone need carbohydrates. Okay. So this is very important thing. Next is what is the fasting blood glucose level means without eating food, how much amount of glucose is present in your bloodstream? That is normally 70 to 100 mg per deciliter. Okay, so I already told that liver plays a key role in monitoring and stabilizing blood glucose level. Thus, liver may be appropriately considered as glu glucose monitor. So this monitor is done by liver. So whenever requirement of glucose is there, liver will metabolize and convert the glucagon into glucose. Okay. So how the carbohydrate metabolism will occur? First, it will become glycolysis will happen, citric acid cycle, glyconeogenesis, glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, hexog monophosphate shunt. Okay, all this will happen. Urinary acid pathway, galactose metabolism, fructose metabolism, amino sugar, and monopolysaccharides. Entire things will happen in liver. So liver is the factory of our chemical factory of our body. So if the liver is good, every organ will work properly. Okay. So first, what is glycolysis? What is glycolysis? Glycolysis is derived from the Greek words glykos means sweet or sugar. Lysis means dissolution. It is universal pathway in the living cells. The complete pathway of glycolysis was elucidated in 1940. This pathway is often referred as whatever name is EM pathway in honor, okay, in honor of two biochemists who made a major contribution to the knowledge of glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis means it is the uh, dissolution of sweet. So whatever glucose is present, what we are doing, we are it is in solid form, it is in liquid form. We are doing in solution form, not solution form, liquid solid form. Okay, is defined as sequence of reaction converting glucose to pyruvate or lactate with the production of ATP. Converting glucose to pyruvate or lactate with the production of ATP. Okay, so it is the utilizing of the glucose molecule. So whatever carbohydrate present in the blood, the utilizing of cell converted into energy. So this process is called glycolysis. Okay, it is happen in the presence of oxygen or in the absence of oxygen. Okay, so if the presence of oxygen, it is utilized. In the absence of oxygen, what will happen? Carbon dioxide, hydrogen, water, everything will present. Okay, so if there is no oxygen, what will happen? Then lactic acid will produce in the absence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, what will happen? Carbon dioxide, water, and ATP will produce. Okay. So at last, glycolysis is a process. In that process, ATP is generated in the presence of what oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, carbon dioxide is present. In the presence of uh, oxygen, water is presented. If there is oxygen is not there, what will lactic acid will present. Okay. So glycolysis is a major pathway for ATP. Okay, already I explained. So everything will happen. You can see the glucose. Okay. If there is no oxygen, what will happen? Two lactate, two ATP will produce. Okay. So glycolysis is very essential for brain. So why this happening? Because our body, our brain need glucose continuously. So if there is no glucose production, okay, there is less amount of glucose is there in the body. So what will happen? Brain will not work. So so glycolysis is a very important and very needful thing for brain because brain need always oxygen continuously. Okay. So either these are the other details. Doesn't need all this reaction, everything. Okay. Next is lactic acid. What will lactic? The lactic will is the form when there is no absence of oxygen. Okay. So since glycolysis in the erythrolytes leads to lactic production. Okay. So lactic production. Lactic, what is lactic? Lactic acid is a three carbon. Okay. If there is normal value between 4 to 15 milligram, but this is normal. Okay. So if it is increasing, so it will act, lactic acidosis will happen. Okay. So whenever we do strenuous exercise, shock, respiratory diseases, cancer, low pyruvate dehydrogenase activity, any disease, what will happen? It will it is very dangerous. Okay. It is dangerous and it will having many issues for the problem for the patient. Okay. So in the chronic diseases, in the very chronic and degenerative diseases, what will happen? Lactic acid will produce. So they do serum lactic levels. So mostly in diabetic patients. So whenever hyperglycemia will happen, so what will happen? They will check lactic acid also. Okay. So if there is hypoglycemia, what will happen? Hypoglycemic unconsciousness will happen. Sometimes epilepsy seizures will happen. Okay. Hypoglycemic seizures or hypoglycemic shock. Patient will enter into the shock when glucose level are reduced. Okay, less than 50, 30, 40. Okay, sometimes hyperglycemia is not dangerous than hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is very dangerous. Even patient will enter into coma. Okay, will enter into the coma. So brain cells will damage, or sometimes permanent damage. Okay, temporary damage will happen also happen. So we have to very careful about hypoglycemia. Okay, you saw number of persons while walking, they will fell down. Okay, mostly female during summer season. Okay, due to the decrease of high BP. Okay, due to the BP, decrease of BP, hypotension. Okay, what will happen? The amount of glucose is not reaching to the brain. So what will happen? The giddiness will occur and they fell down. So in that scenario, we have to check the BP, glucose level. Sometimes the patient will come due to the dehydration. Okay, all this will happen. So there are other things related that you'll not go into the detail. So we understood the subject about the carbohydrates. So next is citric acid cycle. In the citric acid cycle is the important metabolic pathway for the energy supply to the body. About 60 to 70% of the ATP is synthesized in Krebs cycle. Citric acid cycle essentially involves the oxidation of acetyl-CoA to carbon dioxide and water. The as cycle utilizes about two-thirds of total oxygen consumed by the body. The name TCA, you can see that this is the curb cycle. Since at the outside of the cycle, acid aconi- aconatate and isocitrate participate. So this is the cycle. In the acetyl CoA citrate, uh, this will happen everything. Okay, so we'll discuss here. The citric acid cycle was proposed by Hans Adolf Curves in 1937, based on the study of oxygen consumption in pigeon breast muscle. The cycle is named in the honor Nobel Prize of Physiology and Medicine 1953. Okay, so Krebs cycles mean is based on because he proposed the cycle named citric cycle. So we also call the Krebs cycle due to the name of those scientists. So what will happen? Here. So here in the vitamins, the TCA cycle. Here, very important where vitamins are the fundamental things during this cycle. That is B complex vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid. Okay, these are the all the vitamins. Here, one thing is given. Okay, when a molecule of glucose is burned in a calorimeter, 2780 kJ of heat is liberated. So whenever a glucose molecule is burned, utilized, okay, what will happen? 2780 kJ, this is the heat, okay, is utilized. It will get energy is trapped, leading to the synthesis of 38 ATP, which is equivalent to 1159 kg. Has high energy bond equivalent to 40.5 kg. This is our 40% of the energy in the glucose consumption is actually captured for ATP generation. So whatever glucose we are utilizing, 48% is utilized to generate the energy of ATP. Okay. So in this we have discussed the citric acid cycle and glycolysis, and another one is glycogenosis, glyconeogenesis. It is the synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate compound. It is known as glyconeogenesis. Means whatever things we take from the food, it is not related to the glucose. Okay, but even though we are taking some amount of glucose from that thing after breaking those molecules, so that process is done by liver. Like we eat some dry foods like that, even though they have carbohydrates, but less amount. But there is having protein, fat, more fat is there. Even though our liver will search in that the glucose molecules, and it will pick up those glucose molecules for utilization of energy. So this process is called gluconeogenesis. So whatever it is done by liver. Okay. So this is the uh, summary of glycolysis. Glycolysis is an important source of energy for brain, retina, skin, and renal medulla. Okay, all these things you can read about that. So glyconeogenesis, all these are the chemical reactions will happen. You can see that muscle and liver are there. Okay. Next is glycogen metabolism. Glycogen is the storage form of glucose. So whatever we are eating, extra amount of glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. Who will do? This is done by liver. So where it will stored? It is stored mostly in liver. So 6 to 8% is stored in liver, and 1 to 2% is stored in muscle. Due to more muscle mass, the quantity of glucose in muscle is 250 gram, is about more three times higher than that is in liver, 75 grams. Because we have more muscles. So every muscles will store 1 to 2%, 1 to 2%, 1 to 2%. Okay. So what will happen? The amount of storage in the liver is much more in muscle. Okay, so that is the reason what will happen if we can't utilize those glucose, it will convert into the fatty acids. So large amount of fat is stored in the muscles. Okay, so what is the function of glycogen? So it is in emergency condition, we will utilize those glycogen and convert into the glucose. Who will do this? This is also done by liver. Okay, this is a reservoir. What we will call a reservoir. Okay, in emergency condition. So I hope you understood about those three things: glycolysis, glyconeogenesis, citric acid cycle, and glucose metabolism. So from here we will continue in upcoming classes. So you have any doubt, kindly ask.